Cheeks are a little rosy from digging all this stuff up. Stuff's nasty. What's up, you fellow koi freaks? I hope all is well. Welcome back to another video of everything DIY around the house. If this is your first time here, check out the little mini library I have. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notifications so it reminds you the next time I post another great video. Today we're going to talk about 5 ways to help you get rid of this stuff in your koi pond. So algae is actually a non-flowering aquatic plant. It's not harmful in most circumstances, and it's actually beneficial to your pond. It helps oxygenate the pond, but over time it can overload your pond and become rather unsightly. And over time, unchecked, the algae will actually plug up a waterfall, silence the sound, and it can divert water off the sides, causing a leak. A little bit's okay, but we got to keep an eye on it so it doesn't get out of control. Okay, let's dive right into this. Number 1 is fish food. Watch how much fish food you give your fish. Excess fish food and the waste that is produced by the fish actually feeds the algae. So I know it's fun to feed the fish, especially kids. It kind of trains the koi to come up to the edge of the pond. It seems like they're friendly, it seems like they're pets, but avoid giving them too much food because, again, nutrients into the pond feeds the algae and it's just a big cycle. Number 2 is fertilizer. Now, if you have trees or shrubs or sod around the edge of your pond, when you're fertilizing these plants, you need to watch out and make sure you don't put too much down near the edge. And think of water. If you put fertilizer down and it rains, if you have any excess fertilizer that gets washed into the pond, you're going to have an algae bloom. So they call it pea soup. When you get that fertilizer in there and the next time the sun comes out, you'll have an algae bloom, and it actually helps feed the string algae as well. So fertilizing, keep an eye on it, make sure you don't get too close to the pond. Okay, the third one is actually going to be a product. They make UV lights that you can put in line with the plumbing that goes up to the waterfall, and it essentially sterilizes the water. They use these in sanitation departments to help purify the water, so think of that. I don't recommend them because it's just a neutralizer and you're wanting to duplicate nature here, so a UV light at that intensity is not good for the ecosystem of the pond. They do work well, so if you don't have fish or plants, they can be a benefit and help eliminate algae rather rapidly, and in that situation they can work well. Just remember, with the UV light you have the maintenance cost and then the maintenance of the bulb, so you have to keep an eye on that. Number 4 is another product. It's called an Ion Gen by Aquascape. I have one of these in my pond and they actually work very well. They're good for the ecosystem all around. You can use it with fish, with plants. It's basically 2 copper probes that have a wire coming out of it, and it goes to a little control board and a microprocessor, and it sends a signal down to the probes and it releases small trace amounts of minerals into the water, which kills the algae. What's nice about these is they last 1 to 3 seasons. They are on the little more expensive side, but they do work well. Number 5 is the most crucial. You need shade over your water. Now, whether that's trees or plants, I would recommend both. Pond plants and then the trees for the shade. Absolute minimum 50% water coverage for shade. Now, I would go up to say 65%. So if you had a koi pond, 65% coverage, that's ideal. Now, as far as pond plants, lilies are really good at shading the water. They don't absorb many nutrients from the water, so I would go with like a hyacinth. There are many types of pond plants. Just do a little bit of research on them. Get a little variety going in there. Stuff that shades, stuff that pulls nutrients out of the water, and you'll be set. Just remember, sunlight is what causes the algae. People think it's the temperature, but it's the sunlight. I can grow algae in the middle of the winter, so it is pure UV light that is causing algae blooms. So in a well-balanced pond, you wouldn't feed your fish very often. You would use an Ion Gen. You don't have to. And then you would make sure that you have adequate shade over your pond or in your pond. And then also keep an eye on the fertilizer for fertilizing around the outside edge of the pond to make sure you don't get runoff, and make sure you don't get any fertilizer into the pond as well. Now, how do you remove the algae that is there? I've used a couple different techniques. The best way is hand harvesting the algae. You can use a rock on the waterfalls and just scrape the algae off, try to collect it and get rid of it. And this right here is a little secret tool, a little wire wheel for a drill. Just be careful not to get your drill wet, of course. And you just take this and run it up and down the rocks on the waterfalls and it cleans it off. You can actually see right there, I've been using this and it works really, really good. So a little wire wheel on a drill, hand harvest. You could also get a small plastic bristle brush and brush the rocks. And then as far as inside of the pond, you can use a rake. Just be careful not to hit the liner if you have exposed liner. You can kind of rake it and scoop it out. Do away with it. Don't let it sit in there because it'll reattach and regrow. So hand harvesting is the best way to get rid of the algae in the pond. Just remember that algae is not bad. It helps oxygenate the pond. It's just when it becomes in excess that it's unsightly and it's hard to get rid of once it really attaches to the rocks. So a little fuzz on the rocks and the waterfalls is okay. That means that you've got a well-balanced pond, shade, and fish food. It's too bad we couldn't figure out something to do with this stuff. Thanks for watching the video, you fellow koi freaks. If you have any questions, post a comment below. And if you have any questions about a UV light or an ion gen from Aquascape, visit their website. They've got great tutorials and how-tos on how to use the products and where to use the products. So aquascapeinc.com. See you next time, checkers.